Hello, friends, and welcome back to r/ProRevenge. Our first story about how our OP came out the winner of the dress code question with his hairy chest. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. Terrible boss and the dress code. This boss has since been fired, which makes this story so much sweeter. But this man was a grade A douche nozzle while he was there. Fired a coworker who'd been there for years over petty crap, constantly reminding people he was their boss, asked me to do nonsense work, and when I questioned it, he just said he was in charge. Threatened to fire me multiple times for being disobedient. Luckily, I was trained to do a job only 3 people were trained to do, and the coworker he fired was one of them. Anyway, he called everyone for a meeting about the dress code and said there were people not tucking in their shirts. Whatever, I always had my shirt tucked in, so I thought I'd get left alone for a day. Nope. He comes over with the dress code printed out and says we have to talk. I asked what was up since I had a tucked-in button-up on. He said my undershirt was light gray and the rules say it has to be white or navy blue. You've got to be effing kidding me. So I looked through the company rules, and it said you can have 2 top buttons undone, and if an undershirt is worn, it must be white or blue. So the next day, I came in without an undershirt and the top 2 buttons undone. I forgot to mention, I'm a hairy mother effer. And I fluffed up my thick A chest hair so it was poofing out like an Italian mobster. I sat directly across from him at a meeting and kept leaning forward. He looked visibly uncomfortable, and after the meeting, I saw him frantically looking through the rule book. He must not have found anything, because he never mentioned it again. And our second story. I used to work as an insurance adjuster. There was this one guy that just pissed me off. Back when I was an insurance adjuster for one of the big-name insurance providers, we'd have to take care of all kinds of whack job people. But one takes the cake for me. Let's call him Marcus. Not his real name, obviously. Our insured rear-ended Marcus, and I got assigned to his case. Marcus talked to me over the phone a few times, and he seemed level-headed and easy to work with. The damages to his car weren't too severe and didn't diminish the structural integrity of his vehicle, so he came down to have a look at it and decided that he really loved his Mazda 6, so he wanted to get started on repairs right away. Whatever, so I paid the body shop of his choice what they wanted, and they got to work. Fast forward a week and I get a call from Marcus. He told me that he got a call from the body shop and they were halfway done, but he doesn't want to go through with the repair and wants his car declared a total loss and wants to keep the salvage. Well, it gets really complicated at this point because we already paid the body shop the full cost of repair, which I tried to explain to him. At this point, Marcus gets belligerent with me and sets the tone for the rest of our conversations. He repeatedly told me that he was going to have me fired, threatened violence on myself and my family, all sorts of things. So what I was able to do was give him the value of the vehicle at current market value minus the cost to repair the car, which Marcus told me was a load of bullcrap. He wanted us to pay for the repair to the car plus the value. He was also in a rental vehicle that was covered for the duration of the repair, and I informed him that I was unable to give him what he was demanding of me and that he has 1 week left in the rental vehicle. 2 days go by. I receive a call from the body shop. Marcus went in and yelled at everyone and demanded that the shop stop all repairs on his vehicle, which the body shop obliged. So I call Marcus and ask him what he would like us to do, and his demands were the same. He wants the cost of the car plus the cost of the repair. I inform him again I cannot oblige him and send him some paperwork clearly detailing the legal contractual obligation of our company and how we can handle the situation. Marcus again decided to insult me and threaten me. Okay, that's fine, Marcus. 2 more days. It's a beautiful Friday afternoon. Marcus is not responding to me and his rental has not been returned. Marcus's car is in a state of being halfway repaired, covered by plastic, with the rear seats and window out and the trunk trim and carpet out. I tell the shop to pack everything into Marcus's car, and I send for a tow truck to take the car back to Marcus's house. I put the check for the cost of the car at market value minus the cost of repair and the salvage value of the vehicle. I even inflated a bit as best as I was able to in the glove box, even though he didn't deserve it. I took a photo of everything to cover my butt and secured a guarantee from his body shop reluctantly, that they would finish the repair that they started. We dropped the car off on his driveway in front of his mobile home at 5:30 p.m. on a Friday, in a complete disassembly and looking like a hammered a-hole. I also stopped all payments on Marcus's rental car from our company, as I gave him adequate time, as I was required to either work with me or get his vehicle repaired as required by law. I had 20-plus voicemails from Marcus over the weekend, ranging from super raging angry to pleading and crying. I spoke to him once more, but he became belligerent again, so I declined to work with him anymore. He demanded that I pay for his rental car more, which I declined, and he told me that he was going to keep it as long as he wanted and that I couldn't tell him otherwise. Marcus ended up receiving a completely wrecked car, a pitiful check, and ended up most likely having to pay for the entire rental car out of the money that was in his check from us, as the last I heard about it, he owed Enterprise over $2,700. And our last story. Accuse the approver of being a pedant and find out what a pedant really is. Sadly, I'm not the pro in this story. I was, however, in prime position to watch a master at work. I came into a big multinational company as an intern and got invited to sit in on a meeting for experience. The meeting wasn't particularly important in the grand scheme of things, but did involve serious conversations with one of our service providers, hence why it would be such good experience. My manager explained that we were having issues with the product that the service provider had developed. Basically, it was still in the early documentation specs part of the project, their first deliverable. But the document they had produced was utterly terrible. The expert from inside our own company had sent it back 4 times for revisions, and the service provider had consistently failed to meet the deadlines. This was their last chance before some serious penalties would be applied to their contract. My manager and I met up with the expert, who's a young woman, relevant only because this is a fairly tech-intensive field, so she ended up being the only woman in this meeting, and the service provider specialists who were meant to be writing the document, and the service provider's client support manager, and the service provider's contract managers, and the service provider's manager's manager. This meeting ended up having 9 people in it. On our side, 3 people. On the service provider's side, 6, including big names who are clearly gunning for a fight. Expert takes charge of the meeting fairly quickly and immediately hands out copies of the documents in question to everyone. It's about a 20-page document with maybe 15 tabs marking out parts. There are also comments in the margin via Microsoft Word, giving what seemed to me to be very clear explanations as to what was wrong and how to fix it. Our expert then says that the service provider had requested the meeting and asked if they had any particular questions about the feedback. They said they'd like to discuss everything. An expert turns to the first tab in her copy and reads out the comment. Given it's at the start of the document, it's something to do with the scope, listing 3 types of information as in scope, and excluded a 4th that was very important to clearly document. At this point, the service provider contract manager immediately argues that expert is being too pedantic and that it's unreasonable for them to continue to make minor changes. It seems pretty clear that this is leading up to some kind of argument, and my own manager begins to respond. Then, expert pulls out a new set of documents and hands them out to everyone. The original version of the documents has about 15 tabs over 20 pages. This has something like 40. They're color-coded. The other version has those issues that I believe are most significant and that need to be resolved to meet the minimum standard. However, I'm perfectly happy to go through every issue I found and every way that this document does not meet the company standard and style guide that you agreed to follow, and have all of us discuss which of each of these issues are required for acceptance. And then expert starts to do so. The first issue is on the title page. They've labeled an acronym wrong. Surely problems on the front page are enough of a poor reflection on quality, and so easy to fix that it can be resolved before the document is accepted. After maybe 15 minutes of this detail, the service provider's contract manager pulls a different tactic. He argues that they've done several iterations already and that expert keeps identifying different things to change. He says she's moving the goalposts. And so expert pulls out a 3rd version of the documents. This one is twice as long because it's a legal blackline comparison from an earlier version of the document. It also has twice as many tabs as the second one. These tabs have symbols on the ends as well as colors. Expert now wants us to go through this version of the document, and she'll demonstrate that her feedback has remained consistent throughout the iterations, and that the service provider team has either failed to address it or have implemented new, undiscussed changes that had issues. And also go through with a fine-tooth comb and negotiate which of the many issues are significant enough that they're showstoppers. All 9 of us were in that meeting room for 90 minutes before the service provider's contract manager's manager decided that Expert clearly knew what she was talking about, and they were just going to take her word for it on what the bare minimum was and do that. Expert refused. She said that since there had been so many issues with this document and getting it up to scratch, it was clearly important that they go through all the issues so that everyone could understand what level of quality was expected. I was also there and had to read through every comment Expert had, so take my word for it when I tell you that her ire was well-founded. It was very badly written and even had random half-sentences scattered throughout it. It took 2 hours to go through the document. The service provider walked away with 25 changes to make, which was more than what Expert had initially presented them with. I checked her work bag when we were done with the meeting. There was at least one more version of the document in there that she was prepared to pull out if the service provider kept trying to be difficult. Edit/update. I asked the Expert what was in the 4th copy of the document. She says it's the cross-reference version to the other emails, evidence and documents that have already been developed, and regulations that our industry is obligated to follow. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.